जर काल बजेटा स्पीचीन सीएमान एक स्टेटमेंट केलेलो आसा की स्क्रॅप यार्डांचेर आनी स्क्रॅप यार्डांचेर म्हणटा आसा रेजिस्ट्रेशन ऑफ द स्क्रॅप यार्ड्स वील बी मेड. एक प्रश्न सगळ्यांच्या मतीन येता की चडशीं स्क्रॅप यार्डां पळयत जाल्यार शेतान आसता वो इल्लिगल आसता. इल्लिगल फाल्यां तुमकां दिसना की तांकां रेजिस्ट्रेशन मेळ्ळें जाल्यार इन वन वे इल्लिगल कितें आसा पळय तें लिगलायजेशन फाल्यां तांकां तो एक डॉक्युमेंट प्रूफ को फुडें ते कोणाची जमीन वो ते हडप करपाक चान्स पडटलो if it is to be done like that.
See, right now, when we use the word illegal, it means it is not legal, which means contrary to law. It is not because I don't like it. It is not simply because they don't have permission. Because there must be a law regulating permission for grant, suspension, rejection, cancellation. There must be a law. So, in the first instance, whenever it is used illegal, mostly the mental perception kite tenko license na, permission na. Under what law you require would be the answer they will ask. So we will always be in a situation that merely because I don't have license doesn't mean it is illegal. But they are all running these scrapyards in tenanted agricultural lands, and that is what it makes the scrapyard illegal, because by law any tenanted agricultural land cannot be used for any purpose other than agriculture. तुमकां याद आसतली ते एग्रीकल्चर टेनन्सी एक्ट चॅलेंज केल्लो भाटकारांनी आनी हायकोर्टान जिखलोले तेन्ना ज्युडिशियल कमिशनर कोर्ट आशिल्ले. मागीर सरकार सुप्रीम कोर्टाक गेलो आनी सुप्रीम कोर्टाक गेलो तेन्ना आर्ग्युमेंट आशिल्लो थिंगा भाटकाराचो आदवोगाद कोतालो आर्ग्युमेंट, what agriculture activity is required to be done? You are taking land from Peter and giving it to Paul with no obligation to do agriculture. Supreme Court and magis government sarkara insalla, what are you doing to protect and continue agriculture? सरकारान आमचे गोंयचे सरकारान 1990 एफिडेविट गायलो सुप्रीम कोर्टान सांगपा वी आर ब्रिंगिंग अ लॉ टू प्रोहिबिट कन्वर्शन ऑफ टेनंटेड एग्रीकल्चरल लँड्स फॉर नॉन एग्रीकल्चरल पर्पज. एफिडेविट फायल करून 1990 एक ऑर्डिनन्स हाडलो, लँड यूज रेग्युलेशन ऑर्डिनन्स, आनी मागीर एक्ट 1991 हाडलो. हांवें फायल पळयलो देखो, हांवें नोटिफिकेशन ऑर्डिनन्स सगळें पळोवन देखो हांव सांगता तुमकां. सो इफ a tenanted agricultural land cannot be converted for any use other than agriculture, scrapyard is not agriculture.
Correct.
And therefore, you cannot run a scrapyard in these tenanted agricultural lands. Now, in the budget speech, the Honorable Chief Minister has said, we will register these, you can register scrapyards when they run and allow them to run business in place where it is permitted, but you cannot register the scrapyards in the tenanted agricultural lands and try to make them legal by the back door. I don't agree with this. And number two, scrapyard regulation is required. You must bring a law to regulate the scrapyard. Kitya, I will tell you my experience as a public prosecutor. There have been many times criminals found in certain scrapyards. Certain unwanted things happening in certain scrapyards. Fights and even murders have taken place in scrapyards. And sometimes, uzoy petoila tinga. Now whether it was accidentally, naturally, or it was done to claim some money from insurance or anywhere, I don't know. Or rivalry has created the burning of somebody else's scrapyard. Whatever may be the reason. Whenever people talk of scrapyard, monan ki disota, it is like a black stain. आणि लोक भिता स्क्रॅपयार्ड येता तेन्ना. Unwanted people, third party लोकूय रावतात थिंग स्क्रॅपयार्डात, and we have no data about who's staying, who's coming, who's going from that scrapyard. So all unwanted things are also often going on in many of the scrapyards. So I think that the government, when it is trying to regulate these scrapyards, should keep all these things in mind and not try to legalize these illegal scrapyards by the back door.
Don't you feel that there is also a point in when you talk about all these issues? एक स्क्रॅपयार्डाक एक रेजिस्ट्रेशन करता पळय तेन्ना दे वील हॅव सम एड्रेस. फाल्यां ते शेतान आसा दोत्तो एड्रेस खंयचे दाखोवचे पडले, ते शेत हांव थिंगात न्हू. They cannot show the address somewhere else. No? What is your say on this?
There are two ways of looking at it. One is, I may register my establishment for the purpose of setting up a scrapyard. That is before. Other one is, I already have a scrapyard and then I register it. You understand me? So if it's in the first case, you will scrutinize before you permit the activity at that place. Registration is one thing, and the permitting of the use of that land for that will be a different thing. You understand me? So I may have a company which may be a water sports company. I still will require license for water sports. You understanding? I may register my company, but I should have to. Like under food business, under the Food Safety Act, food business operator also has to register. When you register, it doesn't mean you may necessarily commence. You intend to commence. Therefore,
but what about the address? He has to mention somewhere the address.
See, I can have my head office here, and I may operate there.
Correct.
So merely because that address is given, that you look at it from that point of view. Your headquarters may be at one place, but I may run 4 scrapyards.
What that inspection?
When you're actually asking that scrapyard to be recognized as a legal scrapyard, that time the government must put a check on whether that qualifies for it, whether this land can be made available. Sometimes I am putting it to you, it may be non-agricultural, but maybe low-lying, maybe land getting inundated, flooded jata. So that may not be a land which may even be fit for a being, because then you indirectly filling up a land which you otherwise could not do. Imagine you filling up this land, the other land will get flooded on the side. So recognizing the place where the scrapyard is to be set up is different from registering for purpose of carrying out the business.
So you mean to say that the government should thoroughly identify all these aspects while registering a scrapyard?
I think they should bring a legislation, not do by an order. They should bring a legislation for registering them, for identifying the places, certifying the places, allowing them to operate in certain conditions. Because remember, for scrapyard gail mudoni, you'll also require fire clearance. You'll require other clearance, road setbacks and everything will have to be there. Proper access, entry and exit. So all this, I think the government will have to take care to make this provision, and only then they should allow the operation of these scrapyards.
So even if हे scrapyards legalized जाले जाल्यार हेचेर monitoring check कशें जातलें, म्हणजे scrapyardan कितें हाडटा, because these scrapyards which are there existing, they bring anything in the scrapyard, so how it will be monitored?
That is a good point which you have asked. Kizata, you may probably bring आमी स्वता scrapyard कित दिस चिंतात आमगे आयदोण मोडले ते नाल्यार आमचे स्क्रॅप बेड्स हाडटात, थोडे स्क्रॅप आनी कितें वेस्ट मटेरियल एशे कोन्न हाडटात लोखणाचे. But you are right, they may probably even bring hazardous chemical waste over there. We don't know what can come in. So I think that is a very valid suggestion which you have done, made, and I think the government should also consider what kind of scrapyard, what kind of scrap will be brought in, because by simply calling scrap does not mean to say you bring everything. And because even you look at it, why? From the angle of safety, because depending on what kind of scrap is brought, the potential of a risk, potential of fire, potential of contamination or waste or any seepage, anything which can happen, it all depends on that.
Okay.